In basketball, much like in business, defense wins championships. Or should I say, defense. Defense contracts are incredibly valuable to most organizations, and as a result, they're highly competitive and incredibly comprehensive. One of the easiest places to see this is in cybersecurity and compliance requirements that are asked of companies in order to do business with the US Department of Defense and its contractors. And that brings us to CMMC, or the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, one of the most consequential frameworks of a generation. CMMC was launched in 2019 by the DoD to protect sensitive, unclassified information shared by the department with its contractors and subcontractors. But what does that mean? And what does CMMC entail? And who does it apply to? Fret not, because we're going to cover all of this in this video, starting with what CMMC is, why it's important, who it applies to, and how to get certified with it. Let's start with the first question. What is CMMC? There's two basic kinds of information that the DoD and defense contractors work with. Federal Contract Information, FCI, or Controlled Unclassified Information, or CUI. The Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification, or CMMC, is a unified standard to help protect these two kinds of data, with the aim of getting contractors and subcontractors to protect this information with the same security and seriousness than the DoD would. A CMMC certification is a prerequisite for DoD contracts, which means if you don't have one, you probably can't work with the department at all. In 2021, the DoD introduced CMMC 2.0, which is the version we'll refer to as standard from here on out, unless stated otherwise. CMMC is based heavily on NIST 800-171, and as such is split into 14 domains. You can click on the top right corner now to learn more about that. But back to CMMC. CMMC compliance has 3 levels. Level 1 focuses on basic hygiene, Level 2 on intermediate to advanced cyber practices, and Level 3 on comprehensive security practices and controls. Depending on what kind of data you manage on behalf of the department, you get slotted into one of these 3 levels, which each level representing a higher standard for cybersecurity practices. For the majority of DoD contractors, Level 2 compliance is the sweet spot and likely what we'll be targeting. Level 1 is for FCI that requires compliance against 17 security requirements. Level 2 is for CUI that requires 110 security requirements against NIST 800-171. Level 3 is for the most sensitive contracts for high priority programs that requires 110 requirements from NIST 800-171 and 24 from NIST 800-172. To become CMMC certified, companies must implement and pass a different assessment based on their levels. The certification process usually takes several weeks and may take more depending on organization size and level of certification needed. For example, where Level 1 companies can pass annual self-assessment, Level 2 companies will need to have their assessment carried out by a third-party assessment organization, or C3PAO. Level 3 companies undergo assessments every 3 years by the Defense Contract Management Agency's Defense Industrial Base Cybersecurity Assessment Center, also known as DIPCAC. In 2020, the General Service Administration pointed out that while CMMC currently applies only to the Department of Defense, all government contractors, civilian or military, should prepare to implement CMMC requirements. This is not just a commentary on the importance of CMMC as a baseline expectation, but also of cybersecurity frameworks like these at large. Cyber attacks have increasingly targeted defense contractors, and just one breach can mean catastrophic consequences that potentially affects national security. As a result, the DoD has to ensure that all its contractors and all their subcontractors, as best as possible, are sticking to as many cybersecurity best practices as possible. Failing to achieve and maintain your CMMC certification means losing your eligibility for DoD contracts, potentially crippling if defense work is a core part of the business. Moreover, if non-compliance leads to breaches or loss of sensitive data, penalties could go beyond simply losing contracts, lawsuits, heavy fines, and severe reputational damage. Now, how do you achieve CMMC certification? Here's a straightforward roadmap to get your organization certified under CMMC. Step 1 is identifying your required level. Determine your needed CMMC level based on the sensitivity of the data that you handle and your existing contracts or bids. Step 2, appoint a compliance manager and collaborate. Appoint an individual to lead your CMMC compliance activities. This person will be in charge of knowing who's responsible for handling which sensitive system and coordinating with other functions to develop a unified channel to communicate compliance efforts. Step 3, track CUI flow and develop an SSP and a BOANM. To protect CUI, you should know where and how it flows within your current IT environment. Once you've identified that, reduce its storage across endpoints to the fewest possible devices. Reducing your CUI footprint means that you have fewer endpoints to protect, which in turn helps you achieve CMMC compliance faster with reduced costs. Build a system security plan, or SSP, to document the policies, processes, and measures you've adopted to that end. Step 4, an internal assessment and SPRS. Conduct a self-assessment to evaluate the progress and effectiveness of the implementation implemented controls using CMMC's self-assessment guide. Once you have remediated the risks, submit the SSP, SAR, and BOANM to the SPRS. Now you have an updated score. Step 5. Official CMMC certification. Connect with a CMMC third-party assessment organization to communicate your status and set a timeline. The C3PAO will evaluate your current progress and create a detailed report of their findings. Bonus step number 6, continuous monitoring. Your CMMC framework does not end at certification. To maintain your certification, you must regularly update your training materials, review policies, update documents, and ensure that all controls and measures function as intended. Now, achieving CMMC compliance, especially at level 2 or above, is undeniably complex and labor-intensive. But there's a more efficient approach: compliance automation. Sprinto has helped thousands of companies streamline their cybersecurity compliance. By using Sprinto's automation platform, you can rapidly conduct accurate gap analysis, efficiently implement the necessary security controls, continuously monitor your compliance in real time, ensuring that you're audit ready 24/7. If you want to simplify your CMMC journey, reduce manual overhead, and achieve compliance faster and more efficiently, Sprinto is your answer. To learn more, visit sprinto.com or click the link in the description below to book a demo with one of our CMMC experts today.